grow up with the NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode. We were going to do a regular show this week, and then Birdman and I, talked, and we discussed and went, wait a minute, I don't know if we're going to be able to record all at the same time, simply because we had so many other shows, and they go, Birdman is spending the next day or two, recording episodes of Random Access Memories and like Loose Cannons, and we've got Future Imperfects that we're recording, and then starting, midweek, we're going to be having our coverage of the Switch 2 launch and all the Summer Game Fest stuff for the prototype. So we decided that because we're all sort of scattered to the winds right now when it comes to scheduling, we're going to just do another review show because we do have some stuff ready to go. And I was like, okay, when are we going to put this? It's probably, as of this recording, we're recording on bits and pieces here on Sunday and Monday. It's probably going to come out Tuesday. So the show, if you're listening to this, you're wondering, why is it out late? It's because scheduling and all that fun, weird stuff. But I do have a couple things I'm just going to mention here. I'll have a couple of reviews of my own within this show. Birdman is going to have a couple he's recording over the next couple of days to give me to put in. But I've also got just a few like little PC titles that I wanted to mention that I've been sort of playing, just as like first impressions of, because I don't believe we'll be able to do full-length reviews before Summer Game Fest takes up the next few weeks of our programming. As it stands, I've been playing Speed Freaks, which is a PC version. It's one of the games within the Warhammer 40K franchise. And you know what? I'm having a pretty good time with it. It's not like overly intensive when it takes on like your specs that you need for it, and it's pretty fun. Like it's so wild how many different types of games are within the 40K universe, and this is like car combat, and in itself, having a good time. It's fun. It's probably worth checking out. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested, and probably swing back at some point and do a proper full review if we have time and it makes sense to do so. The same goes for the game I've been trying called Home. Now this is a indie style quirky RPG, and think like if you mixed a rhythm game with an RPG. It's got good pixel art, fun, music obviously is the focus, and the controls are good. Plays on basically a potato. You need a third generation Intel, so we're talking like 15 years or 12 years ago. If you have a computer, it'll work with it. 2 gigs of RAM, integrated graphics work with it. So this will work on absolutely anything. I imagine if you have a Steam Deck or something similar, you'll get like a bazillion hours of battery life out of it while playing it. So that in itself, pretty fun. Having a good time with it so far. Haven't gotten far enough to do a definitive review, but I can say that I can recommend it at least based on what I've played so far, because that doesn't always happen. But I am happy enough with it. I also have been checking out a couple other titles. So on Xbox, Xbox and PC, I guess it's one of those play anywhere titles. I am in the middle of checking out Starlight Legacy. So I would say, you know what? I'm having a good time. It is a little more, when you start it up, it's like an RPG Maker sort of looking thing, but it's got a lot more style to it. Like, it starts out that way, but it has like Mode 7 style scaling graphics. The turn-based battle system is pretty good. It does have a non-linear story. It's a little more involved than I was actually expecting from checking it out. The graphics are nothing to super write home about. It's like there's some like mid-era Super Nintendo style graphics, but there's also some like early, like first couple year era. So it's sort of a blend of that. It's, you know, we're not dealing with something that's like massively pushing the graphics to the next level, but it has like a nostalgic warmness to it that I'm really enjoying. It basically runs again on absolutely anything. You don't need like any graphics. Like, you could use this, you could probably get by with using like a netbook even, and it would still play. And that in itself is kind of appealing because you can play it on absolutely anything. Again, having a pretty good time with Starlight Legacy so far, but I'll circle back again once I get a chance to probably do a complete playthrough, and I'll mention it. But for as far as my first impressions are concerned, I'm having a good time. So I think that's it's worth checking out. And that's sort of like the smaller titles that I've just started playing before the deluge of all the content coming out that we're going to have to talk about. And I will, again, like I said, circle back and discuss, maybe in full reviews or mini review episodes. But that's it for me right now, rambling on this. As far as, news and anything else going on, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of upcoming coverage for Summer Game Fest, for all the game conferences, for the Switch 2 launch, and some other fun stories that we're going to be talking about with some of our content. We're prepping a lot of movie content for the summertime, double features that we're discussing for Loose Cannon and Future Imperfect. There's Random Access Memory, Sunday Funnies, whole bunch of fun stuff. But until, we get through the next couple of weeks of busy stuff, we might not have a regular stable schedule of the regular show, but we will have a few more of those episodes come up before we take our break. So I'm going to stop rambling. We're going to get into some of the reviews proper that we have here. A couple from me, a couple from Birdman, and I'll come back at the end just to sort of give a quick content update on what we've got going on. It's been a little while since we reviewed some networking tech here at This Week in Geek, and our friends over at EnGenius sent a cloud-managed 2x3x3 light indoor tripod Wi-Fi 7 access point. Yes, I know a lot of these networking tech things are a bit of a mouthful, but if you're looking to look up the model number, you can look it up as ECW 516L. If you search for that with EnGenius on it, you'll find it. And what is this? This is entering more into the professional level, but not like, enterprise grade, but like home office or small office. You can even use it in your home like I did here. Wi-Fi access point that gives you access to Wi-Fi 7. Now you can get, from other companies, Wi-Fi 7 full routers and all this, and they'll be priced probably at a similar level. But what you don't get is the business class build quality on here. So what this is if you get it, it looks like sort of like almost a flat device. Think like some of those, if you go into like an office building even, you'll see them sometimes stuck to the ceiling because they can be mounted on the wall or the ceiling, and where it sort of blankets an area in a Wi-Fi signal. And that's what this does here. It's powered over Ethernet, which means that if you have a router or a switch that can send power over Ethernet, you can use one single cable to give both the data signal that it gets so that it can repeat it and make it the access point, and it can also give it power. In my case here, I didn't actually have a power over Ethernet switch ready to go for it. So what was sent with it, it doesn't come with anything. It's itself within the box with the mounting brackets and the little instruction guide on how to get started. But I was sent a power over Ethernet adapter that plugs into the wall. It's an AC adapter. And then from there you plug in the Ethernet to the data, and then the other Ethernet to the access point itself to give power, and it passes through the data there. And the one I had was a gigabit one, so it wouldn't have been able to take full advantage of the Wi-Fi 7 bandwidth, because the port on the back of this access point is actually 2.5 gig. So they themselves at EnGenius also have adapters that you can pick up that are, a wall plug adapter that is 2.5 gig, and that's sort of sold separately. There's a range of them that you can get. Or if you have a Power over Ethernet switch, which I ended up purchasing for myself to sort of upgrade my system, and when I plugged that in, it gave power and 2.5 gig connection, so I was able to then eventually get like a full signal on it. These are not as easy to set up for a home user as an out-of-the-box experience as let's say something made specifically for the home market, but it's easy enough. It's better than a lot of stuff was in this class years and years ago. So you basically take your phone, scan the QR code on the box that when you open it up, it says there, it'll signal for you to download a setup app. You put it on, you then scan the back of the actual device has a QR code with a serial number on it, similar to what they do on consumer level devices now, and that'll register it to your home network. And from there, you can then set up things like making it an access point, making it address its own DHCP server, all the more advanced stuff. And there's a lot more that you can do with this, even as like a free user, where you could just sign up for monitoring on it. You can do access control, a whole bunch of other fancy stuff that we're not going to get into for what most people would use, because there is also like paid network services you can get from this company that will then unlock more features that are more like pure enterprise level stuff, scaling and things that you would never use for a home user or for a home office or for a small office like we would be discussing here. But know that it is more powerful and robust. And the build material, it's plastic on the top. On the back, the whole back of it is a giant metal heatsink plate so that it can disperse heat passively without needing a fan or anything, because with Wi-Fi 7 and 2.5 gigabit, you start to enter territories where heat can become a factor. And this is something that can be mounted on a wall or a ceiling or anything. You want to make sure that that has ample, thermal area that it can just disperse the heat. And I can say that, it gets warm to the touch, but not hot. Actually, less hot than my router that has a built-in fan, which is actually pretty surprising. So, the build quality is good there. Signal quality is good. It may not work for every home situation. If you're somebody who is, very not tech savvy whatsoever, and you're just looking for a simple access point, you are going to probably want to go, pick up an access point somewhere in a store that's for consumer level. But if you're somebody who is more into like a home office situation, is looking to tinker, or looking like myself, where I'm a little more tech savvy, and I'm looking and saying, hey, I don't need, another router to clutter up things. I don't need to extend anything other way. I just want something specifically to run on that Wi-Fi 7 band, and 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi 7 band, and I don't want to change anything else in my network, but I know my way around it a little bit. This is a good option for you, because then what I did was I went and took the router mesh system that I had, the 3 access point system, turn them to only work on the legacy 2.4 gigahertz range for older devices, and just to give a blanket Wi-Fi signal for my whole home. And then I have, from the actual ISP, my modem also doubles as a router. Well, I turned off the 2.4 gigahertz band on there, turned on the 5 gigahertz, so Wi-Fi 6 and 6E, that is just on that band, broadcasting from that thing. And then for this device, I turned on the Wi-Fi 7 only and turned off any legacy things. So I have 3 different devices set up, broadcasting on 3 different channels that won't interfere with each other. And they're all dedicated to just one type of connectivity. And, that way, depending on what the signal is, if my phone or my other devices, are having a hard time with the Wi-Fi 7, if it's just a little too far away, let's say for the bedroom, it can auto kick off and go onto the 5 gigahertz. And if I'm going outside for a barbecue in the yard with a picnic or something, it'll just then switch over to the 2.4, which has the longest range. So in my case, and in anybody's case, it's a little more tech savvy, or somebody who wants really good security, really good firewalls, a lot of that, access control, then this is the kind of device that you're going to want to get, because it goes one step above what the consumer level regular El Cheapo router can do. Another fun thing that's built into it is you can make a guest Wi-Fi access. Like, you can do that on a lot of other devices, but you can actually set it up to have a splash page. So when you go to a public Wi-Fi at like a restaurant or a hotel and you connect to their Wi-Fi, and then before you do so, it goes to a access control page where it's like, you're looking to connect to our internet. Would you like to agree to our rules? And then connect, and you click yes, and you can set up a password, or you can make it so it's anonymous, but you can do all that for your own home thing. So this is the kind of device that you would use if let's say you have a small business and you can use this at home like me, or if you're somebody who's like a dentist or something, and you wanted to have internet, and you want to have the ability to have some of your guests connect, your patients or whatever, while they're in your office. Or if you have a small restaurant or something like that, or even maybe you run a bed and breakfast. That's another good use case scenario, because this can be connected to your mesh network, and you could just have the guests come in, they connect, and then you give them the code, and you can have a fancy professional looking splash screen that when they connect with their Wi-Fi, it's like, ooh, here's the bed and breakfast. Yes, I agree not to do X and X and X, and then click to connect and go from there. So it's sort of like straddling the balance between a home device and a professional device, but not quite at that enterprise grade. So I do think it's pretty reasonable. Pricing wise, it's going to range depending on where you purchase it from, and I can't really give exact prices, but because of things going on in the States when it comes to things like tariffs and trades and all this sort of stuff. So pricing is a little out the window from what I saw, at least in Canada. Again, take it with a grain of salt. It was ranging around the $300 price point in Canadian dollars. That, again, don't take my word for it exactly, because things are fluctuating and you can move around. But that is actually quite reasonable for the kind of device that it is, and puts it squarely in the middle of, it's not an entry-level home device, but it's also not a super out of reach, expensive and obtuse and difficult to use enterprise class device. It is something like the prosumer would use into like a small business user. But again, if you're looking to secure your home and have something that has really good build quality, then I don't think you can go wrong with this.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk about something really neat we got from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. We got sent a pair of 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays with a digital code for a couple more Clint Eastwood movies. It seems to be like they're doing a lot of these, but you know what? I am not complaining. So we're going to be taking a look at the Outlaw, Josie Wales, and Clint Eastwood's Pale Rider. Well, if you've ever wanted to see the literal definition of a cowboy badass, well, look at Josie Wales. He's clever, he's funny, he's awesome. And then, of course, you get his character in Pale Rider, Preacher. Honestly, both of these movies are fantastic. They are classics. I don't need to tell you the storyline behind them. Do they hold up? Yes, because I do believe, I'm pretty sure Outlaw Josie Wales is in the Library of Congress in the United States for being culturally and politically and socially important, I do believe. Pale Rider, I'm almost positive, is as well. Clint Eastwood's an outstanding actor. He's a wonderful director. And having a chance to review his movies over the course of the last few weeks leading up to Father's Day has certainly been a treat for me, as I really didn't know so much about him, despite him being my grandmother's favorite actor and director growing up. I mean, I'd only really seen the Dirty Harry movies, and I think my first one I saw was Dirty Harry, then the Deadpool, Dirty Harry 4, maybe Magnum Force, I can't remember which one. But still, looking at these movies, you get a lot of special features, you're getting a lot of archival stuff, but they also bring in some new stuff too that talks about the cinematography, how these things pop, and sort of speaking the culture and language of cinema and how important these movies are. And one of the things that I really like about almost all the releases that I've taken a look at so far is there are full feature-length documentaries. Like, we're not just talking like here's a 15-minute featurette. Like, no, this is something sort of sit down, enjoy it, and be prepared to be entertained over the course of the next 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes longer. That's awesome. If my memory serves correctly, it's really late at night when I'm recording these. To talk about the picture quality, hard to believe that these movies were shot in like the 70s or so. Just They look so good, particularly with the Outlaw Josie whales. I'm really surprised how well the colors pop and everything else. And then even when they deal with some of the indigenous issues in the movie, that I didn't expect, actually. As an indigenous person myself, I'm like, okay, that's kind of intense. Do I think it's problematic? Not really in some ways. Maybe I'm wrong in that. But they did make them kind of cool, made them kind of a badass. I think it's Little Moonlight is like pretty cool. I really like her character. And the old man with the frock, I can't remember the name of his character. But still, honestly, having these two movies in my collection along with Dirty Harry and I can't remember the name of the other one that I took a look at this month, I'm really impressed. I did not expect to like these movies as much as I did. Like I said, as someone who's fairly new to understanding the voice of cinema, like how movies are constructed, I didn't expect this. I am a meat and potatoes kind of guy. I'm your average MCU goer, right? I'm used to speaking the language of like horror movies. Like, you know, I'm your Frank Darabont, your Chuck Russells, your Stephen King, you know, like horror movies, right? That's what I get. When it comes to Westerns and, you know, the crime vigilante movies, I don't really understand a lot of it, but having a chance to see two movies that literally exemplify the modern Western, considering who Clint Eastwood learned from as his career went along, this is a real treat. Like, honestly, I see why these movies are as important as they are. Should you recommend them into your collection? Yeah, absolutely. If I had to wager one over the other, I would say Outlaw Josie Wales is a little bit more fun than Pale Rider. Maybe I'm alone in thinking that, but I just think it's, like I said, it is fantastically badass. I almost called it John Wick Cowboy Edition, would be a way to describe it. You killed his family and now everybody else is going to pay for it. But still, I had a really fun time. So big thanks to Warner Brothers Home Entertainment for sending these over. So the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray editions with a digital code of the Outlaw Josie Wales and Pale Rider get a most definite recommendation from us here at This Week in Geek. And hey, if your dad digs cowboys, well, then you need to check these out because I think you're going to have an amazing time together.
Alex, the producer here, with just a quickie review of Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo. This is a game that I had been, hoping for, wanting to play ever since I got a chance to check out the demo last summer at the Steam Next Fest. And it was one of the most impressive 2D, retro Game Boy Advance style games that I had a chance to play on the demo at that time. And I really, really, really wanted to check it out. So a review code was provided for me to check it out a little early on PC here. And I have to say, I'm not going to go into any spoilers here or anything as far as the storyline goes, except to say that if you played the demo previously, it is very different in storyline and what you're doing from that demo. I'll give a basic rundown of the makeup of the game, the loop. You are, Pipistrello, you are a kid, quote unquote kid, in this world and in this town that is powered by a certain power source that your family controls, and events happen and you have to try to save the town and people, specifically getting your yo-yo back to the way it should be. I'll say that, with defeating 4 major bosses before taking on the final. So this town is divided into quadrants, and there's fast travel that you can do via taxis. Everything is about earning money in this game. There's an environmental message and a humanitarian message behind it as well, which is not super heavy-handed, but it's there and it's pretty noticeable. So, keep that in mind. And it plays out a little bit like almost like a Zelda. You get different power-ups that you can use to traverse. There is a lot of platforming involved. I will say, and get this out of the way, there are some issues I had with the platforming in that I used a few different controllers. I ended up using a wired controller, using an 8-bit wired Ultimate 2C, with the Hall effect sensors and all that. just to reduce latency, because there is so much precise controls that you need to do later on in the game. Once you hit the 50% mark in the game, like about halfway through, it becomes almost unbearably difficult for platforming, and it's a pretty big spike to the point where like I was stuck in rooms for an hour or more on end, looping, trying to do it like 30, 40, 50 times till I could get through. And that's, some of it is because the button combinations that you have to do, and you can alter some of them, but the button combinations that you're expected to do, I was getting like almost hand cramps from like jump and press this, just these button combinations, then this button combination, then this button combination, then this, just to traverse through, only to find that the next room you're in, you have to keep doing that. There are some areas that are pretty difficult because they require a fair amount of quick twitch reflexes that it doesn't really build up to. There's a little bit of learning how to use some of the moves earlier on, and then it just sort of like flips a switch right at the halfway point, and it's like almost out of nowhere. So outside of that, I don't know if they did enough testing or if it was even enough. I don't know. It didn't feel like they had thought through some of that very well. But you know, beating those areas, once you get through them, then you'll have these lulls where it's not hard at all. And it didn't give me the feeling of satisfaction when I beat it. It wasn't like, oh my God, oh yes, I did it. It was like, thank God we can move on from this. So I feel like they didn't really quite find that balance for some of the platforming later on. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the game. It's just, there were moments where I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to beat this. And I don't know if I can or want to or should. So yeah, it's interesting. But like once I did it and sort of stood away from the game at the end, I was like, you know, this is a really good game. It just needed some fundamental changes to some of the later level platforming aspects, because everything else is super duper customizable. If you're having a hard time with combat, there's so many options to give yourself more experience, more hits, more hit points, make it so enemies hit you less, make it so you get more money. Everything in this game is paid for, so you want to get a new power, you get a new badge that you can equip to alter the way battles work or how you traverse the world. You can get those perks, but you have to, you know, use money that you earn to earn them permanently and then remove any adverse effects, and vice versa. There's lots of ways to customize how you play that way. You don't like combat at all, you can turn off any damage. You can turn off fall damage. You can turn off all these things, but you can't alter some of the fundamentals, which are just the traversal aspect of how you can be kind of stuck behind an area and not get through. There's a few areas in the game where you can purchase items that you can keep at your home base, which is where you go back to. It's like an underground lair that always is open to you, that you can go to on certain screens, and usually within the major dungeons they have them as well. And you can store some of those items there, so if there is a puzzle that you truly can't beat, then a lot of times you can grab that item that you've stored and use it instead of having to beat that puzzle to get that item. So you don't have to do all of them, but there are a few areas that require the platforming just to get through. Like it's part of the scripted main part of the game, and that's where it seems to jump in difficulty a little bit much. Beyond that, it has great graphics, a good balance for the comedy that's involved in the script writing, pretty good music as well. You know, some memorable tracks that I could see yourself sort of just like earwormy getting stuck in your head. The controls, while mostly precise, like I said, don't always mesh well with the combinations you have to use with them. And this is, again, like I said, using a wired controller that it's not even me being old. Yes, I'm getting older, but I felt like I was actually getting hand cramps playing some of the more advanced stuff later on in the game. So you'll have to take breaks when playing it. You can't really like mainline through. And you know, it can be cumbersome, and I think they should have thought through some of their button combinations a little better. Outside of that, lots of accessibility options, the ability to play with like a fake overlay that makes it look like you're playing a handheld console, and just, you know, overall pretty fun. Again, you know, outside of some, you know, minor squabbles that I have with some of the design choices, I'd say it's a really solid game, and I think a lot of people would have fun playing it, especially if you can play it in like a Steam Deck or a handheld mode at some point.
Those magnificent bastards! Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's going to do it for the show this week. We have a lot coming up. This is the week of the Nintendo Switch 2 release. We will be doing midnight pickups of our consoles. Birdman doing his in Guelph where he lives. And I will be going with my brother to do the midnight release at our local, I was going to say GameStop, but it's an EB Games again. Yay. For that, we'll be doing some coverage of that. Probably put out some pictures, maybe a little impression thing. We'll see how timing-wise it works. Might do some game capture, release that on our YouTube. We'll see what happens. But we'll definitely do a special on that. So we won't be having a regular show next week, simply because we're going to be doing Summer Game Fest coverage as well. And there's going to be like there's like 3 or 4 days at least where we're going to be watching conferences, getting information together, curating it all, and having our discussions. So there's going to be several episodes of the prototype out, plus coverage of the Switch 2. So because of that, it's going to be a very, Twig special and prototype centric next week or two. So that is why, we might have some reviews come out in between or as part of it, but we won't be covering the regular news because the whole news cycle is basically going to be Summer Games Fest and the Switch 2 launch anyway. So that's just, sort of why we're in that boat for the next little bit. And then we should be returning with some regular Twig news and weird news and all the regular fun stuff that we do until the end of the month. And then we take our 2-month hiatus in the summertime when everything gets hot. But we will have plenty of shows pre-recorded to come out during and throughout the summer itself. But that's going to do it for this week. We're getting prepped for the Switch 2 launch. Going to make sure, because we're getting old, we're going to make sure that we're, hydrated, well slept and awake, ready to go for our midnight launch. And then it's off to the races from Thursday all the way through Monday, Tuesday with all the Summer Game Fest coverage and somehow playing some Switch 2 games in between there to give our impressions. So that's going to do it for us. We'll be back sometime in the next few days right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.